It's an early start for Matt, Bear Clark and Shadow Tour Studios, boarding a pilot boat in Plymouth Harbour to travel out across the water. The crew make their way out across Plymouth Sound, passing many local landmarks such as the imposing citadel of the 17th century naval fort and Smeaton's Tower Lighthouse, once based out on Eddystone Rocks, 14 miles out at sea. Thankfully, Bear isn't travelling that far. Indeed, it's a short trip to the mysterious Drake's Island. Visible from land, the island has been off limits for many decades, with local people intrigued by what may linger on the old rock. It will be several hours until the boat returns at high tide. Bear watches as their only means of escape pulls away from the jetty. Old stone archways lead up to higher areas through remnants of Napoleonic architecture. Locking the only access, Bear and an assistant realise they have the entire island to themselves on what many describe as the spookiest day of the year. Several old buildings are clustered to the west side of the island, including the abandoned ablutions building, barracks block and officers' quarters. Only empty windows stare back as the wind whistles through deserted war ruins. Conflict and defence have defined the atmosphere and appearance of the island. For several centuries, the island remained the focal point of defence for the three original towns that were to become modern Plymouth, merging Devonport, Plymouth and Stonehouse into a single borough in 1914. Originally known as St Nicholas Island, it is from here that Sir Francis Drake sailed in 1577 to circumnavigate the globe, a feat completed in 1580. Drake was made governor of the island in 1583, improving existing fortifications as a defence against the French and Spanish, with barracks for over 300 men being built on the island in the late 16th century. Later, further conflict saw the installation of gun batteries, tunnels and defences as the technology of war evolved. The island was also used as a prison during the Civil War, the death place of leveller Robert Lilbourne and John Lambert, imprisoned for the regicide of Charles I. Isolated islands are effective places of incarceration, but it is unknown how many were imprisoned or died on the island. To wander Drake's Island today is to walk through several centuries of history, where wood was replaced with stone and stone replaced with concrete. Sea mines, sentries and searchlights were installed to guard the naval docks of Plymouth.
What to do in an air raid? Here are a few important rules to remember. Get under cover at once.
World War II was an active time on the island, as nightly Nazi bombing runs flattened areas of the city. These days, the empty ruins are the victim of time and decay, as the new island custodians valiantly uncover and clear more of the island than ever, a huge endeavour, which is fascinating and quite eerie to experience firsthand.
Hello, pigeons. You right up there? I need to get in a flap about.
But for now, it's back to the job in hand. Bear has a lot of ground to cover, and unfortunately the ground is wet. Very wet. With Storm Kieran inbound, there's a push to capture as much of the location as possible for the virtual exploration. On the summit of the island, several huge objects are waiting to be 3D scanned. The RML's large rifle muzzle loading guns date from the 1870s and make an unusual sculpture garden. Bear also scans King George II's cannon from 1750, marked with the King's cipher. The intention is to create highly detailed models ready to be studied and added to the island's rich catalogue of virtual treasures. On the south side of the island, part of the original Tudor-era defences have been uncovered only days beforehand. It is quite something to walk the old Sentry Walk with its small apertures and curving stonework. it's a prime candidate for further 3D scanning as the structure is digitally captured. On the east side of the island, the casemates are gun positions of multiple eras, Napoleonic onwards. Each chamber is different to the last, with some period metal machinery and woodwork still evident to this day. The 360 camera is employed to record the entire area for further examination and exploration. A full virtual tour. Bear takes over 70 shots in the casemates area alone, checking each capture as he goes. With light fading and the weather turning nasty, the Shadow Tour crew enter the island's infamous tunnels. The tunnels are a warren of passages from various time periods throughout the island's 400-year history of war and defence. Some are narrow brick passageways like rat runs from one room to the next, whereas others turn sharp angles to small rooms and ammo lifts. The largest chambers are the shell and cartridge stores, part of the underground magazines. The walls are painted with flames and grotesque imagery, a remnant of when the cavern-like space was used as a club with cinema and Friday night disco.
How dark does that look?
Very dark. Echo. Ghosts.
Drake's Island is rich with ghost stories and paranormal encounters. A soldier is said to guard the casemates, shouting at anyone who dares strike up a naked flame. A fire would have been disastrous in the old ammo stores. So, does the soldier still serve the island, decades after his death? The White Lady also makes her presence known to visitors, with some speculating that it may be the ghost of Lady Mary, the first wife of Sir Francis Drake. She is said to have entertained gentry and the ladies of the 3 towns at Island House, now known as Governor's House. The scent of perfume, specifically rosewater, has been reported by custodians and caretakers. Spookiest of all, the local ferry operator reports seeing a figure of a lady in white standing on the island by the old house. Shadow Tour did experience unexplainable noises while working on the island, which backs up previous reports. Quite clear footsteps were heard in the tunnels, seeming to come quite close and then abruptly stop only a few metres away. Peering into the gloom, there were no obvious explanations for the sounds, and there was no one else on the island. Spooky. The arrival of the high tide meant it was time to leave the island. With Storm Kieran inbound, the pickup was most welcome, as a Halloween night on the island would have been quite terrifying, whether you believe in ghosts or not.
Hello. You're all blurry. I am.
Bear and the Shadow Tour team will return another day to continue capturing, recording and 3D modelling the many layers of history and heritage on Drake's Island.